Welcome. My name is Natasha Sherman, and I am your host. And my guest today is Peg Wright. She is the founder, president, and CEO of the Center for Great Expectations. So I want to read to you their mission statement. So, grounded in a spirituality that treasures the dignity of all, CGE seeks to form a partnership with homeless pregnant women in creating a safe place, a safe presence, and a safe path so that they may complete a healthy pregnancy, choose the next right step, and follow through on their plan. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm thrilled that you're here. And I have to tell you, people do these mission statements and they're quite okay. That mission statement is inspiring. I mean, I got chills when I read it because, and that word safe keeps coming up.
Yes.
And all we do is long for safety and reassurance, and then this population in particular.
Yes.
So thank you for doing what you do. And now tell me a little bit about it. I know on the website it said you do trauma-informed therapy. You do a lot of things, but let's start with that.
Yes. Well, the mission statement was established by my mentor, Sister Rita Wolke, and she wrote that in 1998. Wow. And it was trauma-informed in 1998, and it still is. And we still go back to that mission statement to check ourselves, to be assured that we're on the right path. So trauma-informed is a buzzword now. It really is. And we have learned that the women and children that we serve, and men now in our outpatient program, have experienced trauma on so many levels. And we believe that mental health, and specifically substance use disorders, are maladaptive responses to trauma. People don't use substances because they're feeling great. And
good point.
Those, that have experienced trauma have a far greater incidence of substance use and mental health disorders. So when we created that mission statement, it was thinking about those components that would make a safe place, a safe presence, and a safe path. So to begin with a safe place, our residential facilities are built in such a way that they really honor the dignity of the women and the children that we're serving. So when you visit them, they're beautiful. They're really lovely. And
which is so respectful.
Absolutely. And each woman has her own space that she can go back to with her child, or if she's pregnant, and be with her feelings, because the safe presence component of what we do are trained clinicians that have been trained extensively in trauma and substance use. So they're meeting with these women that come into our residential facility, for example, in the beginning, and for the very first time, potentially, they're not using a substance. And so, of course, they're dysregulated. How could they not be?
Can they enter if they're still addicted?
Well, they can enter right after their detox.
Okay.
So they come to us right after they're detoxed, and they're either pregnant or parenting.
A very raw time.
Very raw time. And the very first thing that happens is we do a psychiatric evaluation. That doesn't happen in a lot of places. I mean, the incidence of co-occurring disorders with people with substance use disorders is huge, like 90%. So we do a psychiatric evaluation so we know what we're dealing with. And then we create individual treatment plans for each woman and child and begin the journey. And it's a journey, and it's a 6 to 9 month journey, sometimes a year journey in residence with a comprehensive program.
So how miraculous. There you are, typically out on the streets, having a substance abuse problem, pregnant, homeless, and with some kind of trauma or series of traumatic events in their lives.
Always.
and you walk into a space where people take care of you.
Exactly. We don't ask them what they did. You know, we ask them what happened to them. Mm-hmm. And the stories that we hear are just extraordinary. I mean, the response would be, well, of course you're using substances. What else could you do? How else could you manage?
Yes.
So,
you know, one of the things I saw on the website was one young woman's story, and it said, one of the lines was something to the effect of, you know, she is learning how to bond with her child and make that emotional connection.
Right.
And that was so startling to me, because for those of us who have had children and haven't had those experiences, it doesn't enter our mind that we're not going to bond with our child.
Right.
But if you have no experience of bonding,
exactly,
how would you know?
That's exactly right. And you know, often, you know, we will have a woman in our program, you know, who is introduced to heroin by her mother at the age of, or was, you know, abused by her mother's boyfriend as a small child. So there is no safety. So, you know, in terms of what does a loving interaction look like or feel like? And so that's why parent-infant mental health, you know, within our programming is so, so critical. So we're working with that woman pre-birth to talk with her about her experiences. What were they? And it's, you know, it's so beautiful to watch. It's relational. You know, it's not didactic. It's not like we're doing parenting training 101.
Right.
None of that. It's like sitting on the floor, you know, and videotaping that interaction with that mother and that child, and just, you know, making suggestions about what you're seeing. And it's an extraordinary thing to be able to see.
And the thing is, you know, it's every life counts, and we hear that all the time. But not only does it count, every life impacts society.
Yes.
It is a rippling effect for each of us. And we all know when we have a negative interaction with somebody what that ripple effect is immediately.
Right.
But this is more subtle. If we're not taking care of humanity, then, and if people are disconnecting, what's the expectation? What is our society or our culture going to look like?
Exactly right.
So here are young women. I mean, to me, it sounds like it must feel miraculous to them.
Yes. They often don't leave their rooms for hours when they arrive because they feel safe for the first time. You know, in our adolescent program, the adolescents that come to us come out of foster care. And that is an extraordinary program of such dedicated clinicians who are working with these young women that are oftentimes, they've been trafficked, they've been part of gangs. You know, we've had gang experiences. That was a learning experience. You know, you can't mess with a gang, believe me. You know, I'll never forget, this young woman told us that the gang was going to come and get her. And she was 14 years old in the adolescent program. And I can recall saying to her, no, dear, you're safe here. She wasn't safe. The van pulled up around the corner. She believed them that they would kill her and her child. And she walked from house A to house B to get diapers in the volunteer area and walked to the van and got in and left and was gone for a week. You know, I say to my sons, you don't learn by what you get right in this life, right?
Oh my God, yes.
So we learned this was 10 years ago.
How did she get back?
You know, we kept calling her because she had a cell phone and no answer. And finally someone said, well, why don't you text her? This was 6 days into her disappearance. And she answered and said, I don't know where I am. And we said, call a cab. And she got in the cab and they drove her back. And she ended up in a hospital for 10 days. They had held her and raped her for that entire week in this undisclosed place in New Brunswick. I mean, just crazy. And this is right here in our area.
Yes.
So we're very clear about what we do with gang involvement now. And we work with UNDNJ. They have gang specialists. But if that happens, that person needs to be moved immediately.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want to go back to also this whole idea that very often when women have children and they have addiction problems or they're homeless or whatever, the state takes them away.
Right.
So, like, you know, this is like, we're not taking your child away.
That's right.
We're going to teach you to, it's not you have to do this first and then you get your child, and then by the time you get your child, you've missed all that.
Right. Exactly right. You know, clearly, you know, substance use is not in and of itself, you know, is not an issue which should make you not eligible to be a mother. You know? I mean, clearly you need the support, you know, and a path out so that you can successfully parent.
And a community.
Absolutely. And I mean, in speaking with that, you know, so, you know, we have a continuum of care. Yeah. We have a community, you know, that's involved. So, you know, when that mother is at the end of her length of stay, toward whatever that is, because it's different for each, we're thinking about the discharge when she comes in. So her child is in our licensed child development center, and we find housing for her. We have, right now, we have 28 supportive housing apartments at the center, and we have an outpatient program so that she can continue, you know, with her care.
How many residents do you have at one time, or how many can you accommodate?
We have 20 residential beds. We have 8 for the adult women's population, and we have 12 for the adolescents. And we have 56 individuals in our supportive housing, and we treat several hundred in our outpatient program. So we're up to about 500 annually now.
Wow.
In terms of the women and men, actually, we treat men now in our outpatient program. Which is also trauma-informed, you know, which also recognizes that pain and the mental health issues that accompany that pain and that inability to really grasp what treatment looks like. So,
wow. So when we talk about, you and I were talking before, and you were talking about how emotional trauma ends up being even more damaging than sexual abuse and physical trauma.
Absolutely.
So say more about that.
And it's, you know, it's on our website. We have partnered with the Trauma Center in Brookline, Massachusetts. And we have implemented what is called the ARC model of care throughout our system, which is an acronym for attachment, emotional regulation, and competency. And one of the things that I learned from Dr. Joe Spinazzola was that, and he stated this at our conference, our inaugural trauma conference last year on December 1st, and that is that emotional abuse is far more detrimental to an individual. It's hidden. It's insidious. You know, it's not emotional, or rather physical abuse is very obvious. You know, you get smacked across the face and you know what happened.
Yeah.
Emotional abuse, not so much. And, you know, it's so insidious, you know, and we were talking about, you know, traumatic experiences that occur even before we're born and how that really impacts our brain.
Like,
you know, any kind of emotional experience.
so let's say a pregnant woman is being abused, or she has some terrible traumatic incident.
Yes.
That chemistry
is
impacting.
No question about it. So that child is already dinged, so to speak, in their amygdala to the extent that, and what that creates is this hypervigilance, you know, and this, you know, intensity that just goes along with those experiences. So, you know, as a society, you know, we really do need to begin to look at those early childhood experiences and those stressors that these children are under, which are just extraordinary. parental expectations even.
I was going to ask you about that because, one of the things that I've been recently talking to, I did a presentation the other day, is this idea that we now have an infinite number of things to want.
Yes.
You look at one catalog, okay?
Right.
So, and it's happened in a very short period of time. So it's seemingly all accessible.
Yes.
And then the message that we keep getting is, if you don't have that, and you don't look like this, and you don't have the romance that looks like that, and you don't have the this, and you don't have the that, then you're failing.
Right.
And even if you get all of that, don't settle into satisfaction, because there's more that you should want.
Yes.
So we're all left feeling a little short.
Right.
And then the idea is, instead of, it's like the parable of the monkey that reaches his hand in the jar, grabs a bunch of peanuts, and then he can't get his hand out, and he's unwilling to relinquish any of the peanuts.
Right, right.
So we're not trained to relinquish any of the peanuts.
Yes.
And we just feel more like there's something we're doing wrong. We have to work harder, do more, reach for more.
Yes.
We haven't thought about enoughness.
Yes.
And so we're always left feeling short. And then we're doing it to our children. I have a client recently who called me, and she has commitments. They're both working, and the kids this, and the kids that, and the kids that. And what she wanted to talk to me about was she wanted to fit in another activity for the kids. And I said, I think you're looking at wanting the wrong thing.
Right, right.
The idea, because now you're training your children to grow up stressed, reaching for more, trying harder, riding faster, working harder, never just, as I say, we've become human doings and not human beings.
Yes.
But we pass that on to our children. Now imagine a child coming into the world already dinged.
Right.
And the stress of that.
Absolutely. And the stress of living in poverty.
Oh my God,
is just extraordinary. And the stress of a lack of a path. And that's something that we're very, very focused on, at Great Expectations. It just have to do that, have to give someone the ability to move forward.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you, because we talked about it and I found it fascinating. You called it nurturing heart, I think it was.
Yes, the nurtured heart approach. And that was one of the very first things that we did at Great Expectations, to really create a culture. You can say you want to create a culture within a company. And what Dr. Howard Glasser's program did was it gave us the context to do that. So very basically, he believes that really all children want is us, right? We're their biggest toy. And they don't really want anything else. So what the premise is that you really celebrate in a very authentic way, the greatness in each child. And in our case, in each person. So it's a staff-to-staff experience. It's a staff to client.
That's huge.
Gotta be, right? Because we also deal, just to digress a little, with a lot of secondary traumatic stress in our environment.
Yes.
It's flying out all over the place.
Yes.
So we have to be really cognizant of caring for one another and celebrating one another. So we do that. So it's staff to staff, staff to client, and then we're helping the client learn that with their child. So it's not giving any energy to the negative behavior. It's a clear, showing that child.
It doesn't mean there are no rules.
No, exactly. There are rules, there are expectations, there are clear consequences for not following that, but it's quick and it's over.
It's a matter of
no
fact.
energy. But when that child is doing something that is positive, tremendous, effusive, authentic celebration. Exactly. That's right. And so that child or that individual really starts to change their brain. and it starts to change their behavior. And it's a beautiful thing to watch.
In my next lifetime, I want to be born to parents who are that aware.
Right? Exactly.
Yes. No, when you think of it, you know,
Yes.
it's, and I'm not blaming parents, and,
No.
you know, there are just so many demands on us, and then we're not trained to,
Yes.
you know, extricate ourselves
Right.
from that.
Right.
And so imagine if you could just, you know, what we end up doing is, why did you do that? I told you, and you know, I told you to be ready, and you're not ready. And and again, there's just all this stuff, and it builds energy.
Yes.
Whereas, okay, these are the rules. Okay, you don't follow the rules. This is what happens.
Right.
You're not bad.
Right.
It's just a consequence. This is natural.
Yes.
It's lawful, if you will.
Exactly.
And okay, and now we move on.
And with our population, so it's baby steps. So the tiniest little progress is celebrated to the 10th power. You know, this is wonderful. And we build on that. And it happens in the Child Development Center, too. Because a lot of these young...
So tell me about your Child Development Center.
Well, Katie's Place was named after Katie Deichman, God bless her. One of our board members' daughters died at the age of 24 from cancer. And the Deichman family has dedicated resources to Katie's Place. And it is just a beautiful place to be. And Mary Jean DiRoberto, who is my 30-year-old son's first grade teacher, runs Katie's Place, and with this tremendous love and care. And so all of the staff are working with all of these children in this loving, beautiful way, and keeping in mind the nurtured heart approach, and also keeping in mind parent-infant mental health. So when a mother comes down, a clinician can sit with her and work with her and talk to her about that interaction, about what that child is doing or misbehaving or doing beautifully, and pointing out, you know, how wonderful that is and what that child might need if they're not connecting. And it's an amazing place. It really is. People don't want to leave. And people always cry in Katie's Place because it's just so moving.
Yeah, how great. So one of the things that really, I want to go there.
You're coming.
So one of the things that I want to go back to is this whole thing about it has to start with the staff. So if you have a mission statement, you know, everything starts at the top and it rolls down. And if you're not conscious and intentional about that, you can talk till you're blue in the face. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't take. It's now efforting and getting behind yourself and pushing. As opposed to, it starts at the top, where you support each other, where you practice the practices with each other, create the context for everybody to thrive, so that then they can go to the next level.
Without question. You know, I mean, in my former life, I was in diagnostic imaging sales and marketing, and I was a bitch on wheels. And then I did some work, and I learned a lot about myself. So when I had an opportunity to do this work at Great Expectations, you know, thank God, you know, I began to make that shift. Because what we were talking about is it's a journey. It's completely a journey. So I became very good at knowing what I didn't know. And that was very helpful. And I also became good at taking direction. So I say now
that's powerful.
That my clinical director, I mean, she's the brains of the operation, really. You know, I just do what she says. So she's got a tremendous vision for what this treatment model that we've developed needs to be. You know, when we were watching the Oprah 60 Minutes show, I was saying to Debbie, you know, I think I shared with you, you know, we've got Dr. Emily Bosk at Rutgers is collecting our data on this trauma-informed treatment model, and she has 9 people working behind the scenes. And I said, Debbie, we've got to get this out. You know, this
Right.
is such a special thing.
So you said that Oprah had talked about it, and she's really like behind it and
She's
whatever.
hot on it, yeah.
But you've been doing this for 9 years.
That's right.
The best kept secret on
I
the
know.
planet.
You got it.
Yeah.
So we have to break out.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
you know, we have to get the message out, and we have to share it.
Yes.
That's really, I think, what needs to happen. Because I think people are starting to understand that trauma is at the core of these choices that we make. You know, and no one does it on purpose.
No one,
You know?
no one is born saying, "Gee, I think I'll be bad."
Right. I think I'm going to, you know, I think I'm going to abuse this kid by
Right.
emotionally, because it's generational. It is generational.
Yeah, it is. So we've got 2 minutes left. What do you want our audience to hear? What do you want them to know? Do you have any requests?
Wow. I have a lot of requests. Well, we're celebrating 20 years,
Wow.
which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
On October 5th, we will be at the Hyatt in New Brunswick, and we're going to be celebrating all of the people that have helped us get there. And that's really key. You know, we say people heal people. That's the way it works. And
Who can come to that?
anybody
Okay.
and
so,
everybody.
Okay.
It's-
So if they go on your website, they'll see that opportunity.
Absolutely. And our website will be upgraded in 3 months, I'm told.
Okay.
It's old. It's 4 years old, so it's a little rusty, but you'll get the general idea.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can go on there and you can see Dr. Spinazzola's talk from our trauma conference, and, you know, there's quite a bit of information.
And for me, what it sounds like is there's a lot to be learned. It's
Yes.
rich with information. Like this
Yes.
whole idea of the nurtured heart. It's like, oh, I want to hear more
Right.
about that,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So even for those of us who are not raising young children, it's still very relevant.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So we're at the end, unfortunately. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and you are the best kept secret. So now hopefully you won't be. And I encourage people to check out the website, to consider going to your event, and
Come and visit us.
come and visit.
That's really the most telling. I mean,
Yeah.
when people arrive and they come and they see, you can, it's palpable.
Yeah.
You can feel the care.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Natasha Sherman. Thank you for joining us.